Blind man sees wife for the first time. Says two words that put everyone in tears. Most of us live in a pretty awesome world, living good lives with healthy bodies. But there's plenty others who aren't so privileged, and thanks to bad numbers in the genetic lottery, everyday life can be something of a struggle. Like being blind, for example. Can you imagine how hard life would be? It certainly was for this guy, who for 16 years hadn't even seen his own family. Then everything changed. The man in question is Gene Purdy, an otherwise regular guy from Denver. He had a steady job, an adoring wife, even a baby boy. His life was normal, average, run-of-the-mill, standard. Oh, except for one thing. He was totally blind. It all started 16 years ago when Purdy was diagnosed with a rare disease. It was Stargardt's disease, and within a horrifically short space of time, he was legally blind. He could see the world, but everything was just a vague, blurred outline to him. Remember that episode of Black Mirror where the guy gets blocked? Yeah, that was his life, all the time. It's not common at all, but it can strike anyone at any time. Doctors still don't know what causes it, but the effects are pretty plain. Rapid degeneration of the center of the retina. This part, called the macula, is responsible for focus and straight-ahead vision. So if it ain't working, it's like looking at everything through several panes of frosted glass. It wasn't until after his eyesight degenerated that he met the love of his life, Joy. From the beginning, he couldn't see her properly, a blind date in the truest sense. But how she looked was not important to him. They couldn't get enough of each other, and were soon married. Just over 10 years later, they had their first child, a kid named Lincoln. Enter Rachael Ray, a lovable host of her own hit talk show on CBS. Purely by chance, Joy had seen an episode of hers where another person with Stargardt's disease had been given e-sight glasses and had their sight completely restored. Joy realized that Gene might have a chance to do the same and wrote to Rachael, begging her to get Gene on the show. Rachael Ray didn't hesitate. Of course he could come on. After 16 years, the moment had finally arrived. Purdy had been nervous about his life changing forever, but he didn't show it. He and his wife chatted with Rachael about the difficulties he'd faced, and he seemed completely relaxed until they presented him with his new e-sight glasses. These glasses might not give you x-ray vision, but they come pretty damn close. The brainiacs at e-sight, a digital eyewear company, had developed technology specifically to treat this disease and give sufferers back their crystal clear vision. The only problem was that this technology was by no means cheap, around $15,000 for the regular model. As soon as the e-sight representative slipped the glasses onto Purdy's head, he completely lost it. He stared around in amazement at a world he thought he'd never be able to see again. He was shocked and overwhelmed, and finally he looked at his wife. After all this time, Purdy only had two words for her. As he cracked a huge smile and she broke into tears, he simply said, "You're beautiful." It was the words every girl wants to hear, and he meant it. The audience went wild, and all of our hearts melted.